What if you could just reach into your computer screen and start molding a 3D model like it was a piece of clay in your hands? Well, that's not science fiction anymore. Today, we're diving into Shapelab, a virtual reality tool that is absolutely tearing down the wall between an artist and their digital creation. So, how are we going to break this down? First, we'll talk about the old way of doing things. The limits of the flat screen. Then we're going to step right into the VR studio to see how Shapelab actually works. We'll peek under the hood at its polygonal power and explore its awesome digital toolkit. After that, we'll get the real story from artists who are in there using it. And that'll bring us to the big question. Is this the right tool for you? All right, so to really get why VR sculpting is such a game changer, we've got to look at the challenge that artists have been wrestling with for decades. For the longest time, 3D art has been this weird paradox, right? You're building these incredible three-dimensional things, but you're doing it on a flat, two-dimensional screen with a mouse and a keyboard. It works, for sure, but it's always indirect. It's kind of like trying to build a ship in a bottle. You're always working at a distance, never truly hands-on. And this is where VR doesn't just change the game, it pretty much throws the entire rulebook out the window. Tools like Shapelab aren't just an improvement, they are a complete revolution in how we can interact with digital art. So, at its heart, Shapelab is a 3D sculpting program built from the ground up specifically for VR. The whole point is to give you this almost physical connection to what you're making. You can literally walk around your model, hold it in your virtual hands, and shape it just as if it were a real object sitting in your studio. And the benefits? Oh, they're huge, and you feel them immediately. The workflow just feels, well, natural. You get a real sense of scale and depth that's just impossible on a flat screen, and that usually means you work faster and, in a lot of cases, with a whole new level of precision. Okay, so there are other creative tools in VR. What really makes Shapelab stand out? What's its secret sauce? It really all comes down to how it builds things. See, a lot of VR tools use something called voxels. You can think of those like 3D pixels. But Shapelab, it uses the industry standard method, polygonal mesh modeling, and that's a big deal. So what in the world does that actually mean for an artist? Well, just think of polygons as a connected web of points, lines, and little flat faces that all work together. This structure, this web, is basically the language of professional 3D. It's what's used in video games, in movies, in animation. It's the real deal. And because Shapelab is built on this professional foundation, it gives artists the power to create incredibly detailed and complex models. It also means the software can handle enormous, high-resolution 3D scans, something that can make a lot of voxel-based programs just choke and give up. All right, let's crack open this digital toolbox. What kind of creative power does Shapelab actually put into your hands? First off, it's loaded with a whole suite of brushes that are going to feel super familiar if you've ever used a desktop sculpting app. You can add clay, smooth out surfaces, pull out these long, crazy tendrils with the snake hook brush. All the essentials are right there, but now they're literally in your hands. But it's not just about the shape, right? Shapelab also has what's called PBR vertex painting. Now, PBR stands for physically based rendering, which is really just a fancy way of saying you can paint materials that look and react to light realistically. You can paint color, how rough or smooth the surface is, how metallic it is. You're not just painting a look, you're painting a feel directly onto your model. It's amazing. And all of this shows that Shapelab isn't just a toy. It's built for a serious professional workflow. It uses dynamic topology, which cleverly adds detail only where you need it, keeping everything running smoothly. You can export texture maps that are ready to drop right into a game engine. You can handle complex scenes with multiple objects, and it supports all the major file formats you'd expect. Now, all that sounds great on paper, but the real test, the real proof, is what actual artists think after they've spent hours and hours working inside the software. One reviewer just nailed it, saying it provides the closest workflow to expressing what you think. How cool is that? They also loved its performance, pointing out that its dynamic topology is so good that it runs smoothly even on a 5-year-old graphics card. That's impressive. But, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Another user gave a more critical take, pointing out some frustrations, like the limited number of brush shapes you can use. They also mentioned there's no access lock, which can make it tricky to get perfect symmetry, and that it sometimes crashed when working with really, really big files. So when you lay it all out side by side, you get a pretty clear picture. On one hand, you have the super intuitive, powerful, and cost-effective tool that runs like a dream. But on the other hand, it's got some limitations, right? It could use more brush variety and better stability with massive files. It shows that it's an amazing tool that still has a little room to grow. And all of this leads us to the final. And let's be honest, the most important question for any creative person out there. So after weighing the tech, the tools, the pros, and the cons, how do you possibly decide if Shapelab is something that belongs in your personal workflow? Well, it turns out there's one simple little piece of information that makes this decision surprisingly easy. And it all comes down to a single number, 2. That's right, 2 hours. Thanks to Seam's refund policy, that's how long you get to try Shapelab out. You can buy it, jump in, sculpt something cool, and if it just doesn't feel right for you within those 2 hours, you get a full refund. No questions asked. It's basically a completely free hands-on demo. Look, at the end of the day, no review, not even this one, can tell you if a creative tool is going to click with your unique style. You just have to feel it for yourself. So, with the barrier to entry being literally 0, the only real question left is, what are you going to create when you step into your own virtual studio?